Hello.
There's a bit of delay, but hopefully it'll catch up. How are you today?
Good. I think it worked better on the other side, maybe. There's a lot of wind today.
Okay. Do you want to go there or do you want to stay where you are? I'm fine.
Well, um, we'll see if it starts to work, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, then I'll find a place a little more sheltered.
Okay. I'm fine with it. The trick is to just say your thing and then stop and let the other person talk because there's a delay in between.
Okay.
So, would you start by just telling us who you are and how you got to where you are?
Sure, yeah. So, well, I got to France because I had a really cute intern in 2003 that owned a chateau. And the Chateau de Lavernette has been in his family for over 400 years.
Wow.
And I was already an enologist. That I worked in California and Argentina and New Zealand. And together we were both really interested in working on things that were really natural, organic, and biodynamic, and creating a project that hopefully was going to be sustainable.
So, but in 2003, how did you get even there into the wine world? Did you study or just always love wine?
Um, no, well, when I was a kid in university at UMass, I actually worked at a restaurant in West Stockbridge called La Bruschetta, and the owner taught me everything I know about wine. But I never imagined that somebody could be a winemaker when they grew up. But in fact, you can.
It's crazy to think that. Yeah, it's like you don't even know it's out there, but you can certainly do it. Yeah.
And so I was backpacking in Europe, and she said, "You have to visit my friend in Barbaresco." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to go to Italy. You know how those Italian guys are." And in fact, it was the most amazing experience of my life. And that's when I decided to go back to California and study about winemaking, and started working in the wine industry.
And the stage where you met your husband, that or when he was interning, where were you then?
I was at Sainsbury in Carneros
Okay.
making the Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, um, if you would, when you tell us where you are, if you flip the camera, I think we
Yeah,
talked
you
about
want
that,
to?
and show us
Yeah.
around. Yeah, and then tell us where you are.
Okay. So this back hillside.
Kerrie, it's sideways. I'm not sure why,
Oh,
but maybe there you
okay.
go. Thank you.
Okay, maybe that's a little better.
Yeah.
So this back hillside is Beaujolais,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that you see is Gamay for miles and miles and miles. And over there on the hillside, you have the village of Saint-Amour. So it's
Okay.
not too far from us. We're in the village of Laine.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we turn around, on the other side of the house, the hillside on the other side, that's the Mâconnais.
Oh
And
gosh, yeah.
that hillside there is Puy-Fusé.
That's the famous hillside in Pouilly-Fuissé?
Well, we have two rocks that
Yeah.
you can't see quite from here.
Okay.
Solutré and Vergisson. And normally they're a little bit farther, and they're behind this rise
Gotcha.
here.
Okay. So Can you talk about what's unique about there? Because you're right at the border of the Macon and Beaujolais, and your website describes it as the Haut Beaujolais, which is, I haven't seen a lot of that, but I love the idea of it. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we live right directly on the border, and we're where the granite melts into the limestone. So the Mâconnais side is limestone, and the Beaujolais side is granite with a sandy clay topsoil. And so all of our neighbors on one side, they only have white grapes, and all of our neighbors on the other side, they only have red grapes. And we're just right in the middle, and so we have both. And actually, we have the only parcel of white Beaujolais in the Mâconnais, and our Bourgogne Blanc is actually in Beaujolais. But everything everything is directly around the house. All the vineyards are right here.
That's nuts. Wow. I love it.
Yeah, I never, when I was in California, I thought I knew a little bit about wine, but then I came to Burgundy and I realized I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm learning every day. I mean, it's really, it's a complex area. And touching our vineyards, we have Saint Véran on one side and Macon Village on the other side. And I don't know who came up with what and how they decided those things. Right now, they're putting in a classification system for Puy-Foussay. They've been working on it for over 20 years. They started working on it in 1999, and it still hasn't passed yet.
Wow.
Because people can't decide. They can't decide. They can't agree. It's hard to. How do you determine what's the best? How do you determine? Yeah. How do you determine what merits to be a premier cru? Is it the best wine? Because you see in the Côte d'Or where they have Grand Cru, sometimes there's a really bad Grand Cru, and sometimes there's a really excellent Premier Cru, but even a village wine, even Aligote, you can even drink an amazing Aligote.
Yeah, it's really true. Are you caught up in that whole Bourgogne Côte d'Or appellation? Is that all around you? It goes down that far to where you are, right?
No, it's about 40 minutes from me.
Oh, that's all up above the Macon. Okay.
I'm 40 minutes south of Beaune and 40 minutes north of Lyon.
But I mean, I was there in end of February, and there's this new appellation that if you're in the Côte d'Or, you can say, like now really far south in Burgundy, you can call yourself Bourgogne, and then people in the Côte d'Or are now calling themselves Bourgogne Côte d'Or to separate that out. Is that affecting you at all?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't actually affect us too much, because none of our appellations have changed at all.
Right. Okay.
I mean, and that's the thing too. So Lavernette has been here since 1596.
That's crazy.
And there are guidebooks that talk about Lavernette. We found one from 1894 that was talking about the wines of Lavernette. It was before their appellations were even created. Wow. And so we tend to think that regardless of the politics around all that we're still going to be making wine in the future. Yeah.
Would you basically repeat that? But I know your records go back to the 1500s with the monks and then the seigneurie. Would you give a little bit of the history of the chateau and what you're doing now?
Sure. So the Lavernette family bought it from the monks of Tournou in 1596. And the great-grandmother of my husband was a de Boissieu, and she married great-grandfather was a de Boissieu, and he married a de Lavernette, and so it passed in the family. And on the bottle we have both blason. We have both crests.
Yeah.
One from the Lavernette family and one from the de Boissieu family.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a long time, they've grown grapes here at Lavernette since the Middle Ages, if not before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Romans. Sometimes you still find like Roman pottery and coins and things like that in the vineyards.
Wow.
And the thing is that during the two world wars, the wine there wasn't enough labor, and so it went. All the grapes went to the cooperative.
Oh, okay.
And so once it ended, they took Xavier's father took the grapes and started making wines under the Chateau de Lavernette label again. So
I see.
So in the late 19th century, grapes were still being made at Lavernette, and then for about I think 50 or 60 years, 57 years, something like that, the grapes were made by the cooperative, and now they're made at Lavernette again. And
that's
then
very rare to have that. The wine, you guys make it, bottling your own wine way back then. That's very rare, isn't it?
I think it was sold in pièces. It was sold in barrels.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so
people would bottle it themselves.
I see. So what is the estate now? You have property in both the Macon and the Beaujolais?
Oh, maybe I'm not sure. Can you see the chateau?
I think so.
Or not very well?
It's up at the top on the right, or straight through in the middle?
It should be straight through in the middle.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
And so
your website is fabulous. All this is on the website, by the way. If people want to dig in, it's really, you guys have documented things really well.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened that it actually comes out clearly, because I feel like when we're writing, we never have enough time, and then we go back and we say, oh, why did we say that? Or maybe there's a little fact that's wrong, or I don't even remember the last time that we updated our tasting notes. So we're actually really bad with communication in general.
I was reading history, and it was nice.
For having me here, though, to talk about it, because it's nice to have some contact with the outside world. We were really isolated
I bet.
during the confinement, and it's nice to have a voice from the outside.
Well, it's nice for us to hear from you, especially. I mean, I'm lucky to be outside. I'm staying with friends in Connecticut, but a lot of my friends are still in their studio apartments in New York City. So we really appreciate your sunshine. So back to your chateau.
Okay. So now Xavier and we were married in 2006. Our first harvest together was in 2005. And when we started working together in 2005, we decided immediately that we wanted to be biodynamic. Okay. And we decided we wanted to be biodynamic because when I was in California, I was part of a research group called SIRA. And we used to study everything. We studied barrels and yeast and clones and everything. And when I was in the vineyards, I really saw that's what seemed biodynamics is what was working best for people.
Mm-hmm.
And so today we're kind of evolving from that. In that we have here we have vegetable gardens, we have orchards, we have chickens, we have horses. It's really a farm. It's not just a vineyard, and the diversity is really important. And we've also, for the past few years, been trying to find solutions with permaculture and trying to find something that's going to work in the center. We have a vegetable garden that's in permaculture, but we haven't really found a solution for the vineyards because the gamay vines, I don't know if you can see,
Oh, wow.
they're really, really low. They're tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
all the culture that we looked into was too high for the vines. It swallowed the vines. Not like California, where you have a lot of space to grow a lot of different crops.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys have any ideas,
I should connect you with I should connect you with Mimi Castile because she's doing exactly that out in Oregon with biodiversity and permaculture. Would you explain more what permaculture is also? But she's planting things in the rows. I mean, just she's kind of using garden space between the vines for some cabbage and pumpkins and stuff like that. But what do you mean when you talk about permaculture?
Permaculture is a bit different than biodynamics because there's no tilling, and so that's really the big issue. You're locking the carbon into the soil instead of plowing and releasing it into the air. And the whole idea as well is that you're getting a double crop out of it. And so you're doubling its utility and you're preserving the carbon. One of the other things about permaculture that you don't hear so much with biodynamics is the idea of waste. Nothing is wasted, so everything gets recycled. They try to find a use for everything. And also about carbon footprint and renewable energy sources.
Well, when you till, also you're leaving a diversity underground, right? It's almost like another farm underground that we don't see, but you're increasing the diversity and the everything growth under there too, right?
Yeah, well, in fact, in the Beaujolais Blanc, we left 10 rows that we're using as a control that are organic, that don't have the biodynamic preparations.
Mm-hmm.
And with those vineyards, we do experiments. There's some people that made wine out of them. There's some people that have analyzed the soil. And we saw that with the analysis last year. So after 14 years, in only 10 rows that are surrounded by everything else on the farm is biodynamic. In those 10 rows, there was only 2 different types of earthworms, and there were 5 times less than the biodynamic ones. The biodynamic ones, we had 7 different types of earthworms. The soil texture was better. When people tasted the grapes, they preferred the balance in the grapes, and we also saw a better nutrient balance when we do must analysis. But that's something that we see every year.
That's fascinating. Wow. Keep talking about all this farm and what you're doing. It's fascinating.
Well, yeah. So I actually, I think I'd like to come on this side and I can show the permaculture garden. But that's a nice thing about here too. Right now we have that, and one of the nice things about during the confinement, we didn't have to worry so much about food because the garden
Oh,
provides so much salads and kale and beets and onions and potatoes. And right now we have I don't even know what you call this thing in English. Do you know
you're
what you
starting
call
to
it?
you're forgetting your English words. I love that. It's a tree.
Yeah, it's
Oh, mulberry.
a mulberry,
I think so. What do you say it in French?
miroir.
Yeah, that's mulberry.
So I think I was thinking maybe loganberry, but I'm not sure.
Oh, you think that's maybe could be. It is skinny for a mulberry, but I saw the red ones. Somebody in here maybe
Yeah.
will know. That's great.
And then that's our permaculture garden there.
Okay.
And it doesn't get tilled. It just gets covered. And then
So
we have the
that's
orchard.
when you say garden, that's like a potager garden, not just you don't refer to your vineyard
Yeah,
as a garden. The permaculture.
no, not yet. Not yet, but
Okay.
it's a work in progress. I'm determined to find something that's going to work with my mini gamay vines.
Um.
Um,
Yeah,
but
that's
we had,
incredible.
yeah. Um, but even though we only have two different grapes and the soils are really similar, we still make a lot of different wines from them because each parcel still expresses itself fairly differently. And we make a Pouilly-Fuissé, and the vineyards just across the street are the Beaujolais Blanc. So they're the same grape, and they express themselves completely differently.
Wow, I
One
love
is
that.
much more stony, and the other one is much more fruity. Um,
So when you have, go ahead.
granite, the stones of granite from
Uh-huh.
Beaujolais, and the calcaire from the Mâconnais.
Wow, that's so cool. Wow, so weird. What a cool way of showing that, though. And so it's just kind of blowing my mind that. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I didn't hear your. I'm sorry, I
I love
didn't
that.
hear it.
That's so clever. So your wines, it says Chateau de Lavernette, Pouilly-Fuissé, and Chateau de Lavernette, Beaujolais. It's just as long as you have the correct appellation, the Chateau kind of can straddle both appellations.
Yeah. Well, but
So
everything's in
cool.
Burgundy. Everything's in the Saône-et-Loire. Everything's in the Soixante-et-Onze. So, I mean, we're not really. And the appellations came after.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So that you're grandfathered in, we say. So
So
we're almost at a half an hour. So tell me everything before the next 5 minutes. I still want to hear more about what you do.
well, that's the thing. So now our project really, our latest thing is to concentrate on the sustainability. And this year we put in solar panels on top. So um, we create our own electricity. My dream is to one day build a winery here at the site, because for now all of our wines are made in really old cellars. And it's really funny because my friends in California, when they come, they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky to have all this history," and I'm always so jealous that they have all this brand new
Yeah.
things and shiny equipment. But um, that's really what we're hoping to have, is something sustainable that lasts into the future, and hopefully another 400 years or more.
Yeah. Wow. So you said that the confinement, the quarantine hasn't affected you too much because you've had your groceries from the garden and stuff. But and I know people can work out in the vineyard, so it's been okay. And restaurants are open today apparently in France.
Maybe, but I think not around here. Everybody,
Oh,
all the
okay.
restaurants are doing takeout,
Okay.
because we're still in a red zone, even though we're out
I
in
see.
the country.
So while we're waiting for her data, red zones are like the cities, and they're going to open slower, like New York City. But the countryside is a green zone, and they're open. That's what she's talking about.
Market in March, and all of a sudden everything just stopped. And then all our restaurants closed, and the wine shops closed, and that's really our main markets
I
in
see.
France, our restaurants. And so we had a scary moment, but then happily the French mobilized, and they like drinking. They like drinking good wine, and so things loosened up a bit, and now we're breathing a lot easier. But it
Okay,
was
good.
the first few weeks were a little scary,
Yeah, yeah. I missed a little bit about why you're in a red zone, even though you're in the country.
because the village of Macon, the city of
Oh,
Macon, it doesn't have enough uh, space in the hospital to handle the
oh,
people that are
gotcha.
sick. So even
Okay.
though
Because
there's
Kerrie
not
over
very
in
many,
Maury,
yeah, normally she should. I think she should have. She should be in a green zone.
they're open. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's
lucky her.
fascinating. I wouldn't have thought you were red, but when you say it, it makes sense. Yeah, 100%.
Yet we're not far from where it all started. We're not far. We're an hour and a half from Geneva and 3 hours from the Italian border. We're really close.
That's crazy. I need to look at the map again. You had mentioned on your website, it says that I'm going to go over, if you don't mind, a few more minutes. I'm really enjoying chatting with you.
Yeah,
It's
that's
okay?
yeah,
Okay.
totally fine.
On your website, you said you guys are at the crossroads of the kings of France and the Holy Roman Empire, which makes sense when you say it, but you don't think about that because I always, being friends with Kerrie and learned like in the Southwest, I always think the Romans just went over there to the west, but they went up too, right through where you are.
Yeah, yeah, there were a lot of I mean, there's a lot of Romans in the area, and Beaujolais. I mean, the names of Mount Bruy and Julianus and things like that, they all came from their Roman names originally. Um, yeah, and as I said, we find things in the vineyard
That's super cool.
sometimes. So yeah, it's a one never knows what we're gonna find. Um, and what's funny too is here in the chateau we have a secret chapel, and I've never really understood why it's hidden like that. But
Oh,
we have a secret chapel.
there's a mystery to to
Yeah.
uncover.
Hmm.
You have to start a little museum too. What about you guys make 10 different wines apparently, and then what is the difference between? I don't know what this means, but I wrote this, but it says, what's the difference between Granite and Cremant?
Granite is made from Gamay.
Okay.
And sparkling
Okay.
Gamay, traditional method.
Sounds delicious.
In 2009, I love champagne. I've always loved champagne. When I first started working in California, my first job was at Jay, making sparkling wines, and they did the wines for Piper Heidsieck as well. And when we went to visit Champagne, we were in the Aube, and I was like, wait a second, those are Gamay vines. What are those doing here? And they're like, you're not supposed to talk about that. Those vines are really old and they make really good fruit. So we just don't talk about it because we don't want to have to rip it out. Wow. But there's actually a lot of random vineyards all over France with grapes that people just don't talk about.
Yeah.
And Gamay is all over. I mean, it's in the Jura, it's in the Savoie, it's in Burgundy, it's in southern Champagne. You find some in the Loire. So, and definitely in Beaujolais, it's much more like widespread than what people think about.
Yeah. And was it you that started making the sparkling Beaujolais? That's your touch?
Yeah.
I love it. That in method traditional, that's pet nat, right?
Oh, well, so the difference with pet nat, but we can make it pet nat, actually. And we do for our Danish market, because they like to disgorge it themselves.
Yeah.
But traditional method, it's disgorged and
so it's a little
sold. It's a bit cleaner. And pet nat is when you directly.
And you have the crown cap in a pet nat, but you have a champagne cork in it, right?
This is my daughter, and she just came home from school.
Hi. She knows she's in Connecticut.
And she's wondering what I'm doing with her earphones.
Oh, no. Tell her it's for the greater cause.
Yeah.
And then my last question. Oh, and you make a Cremant. That's from where?
And so the Cremant, it comes from the Chardonnay that's in the Mâconnais vineyards, just at the end. So that's 100%. That's 100% Chardonnay. Okay. And it's to have a Blanc de Blanc and a Blanc de Noir.
That's fabulous. Are you? My friend in Connecticut says, get some of the Granite, please. That sparkling Beaujolais will fly off the shelves here. Do you sell in the States? I don't know why I don't know that.
Yeah, we actually sell in the States. So it's Vintage 59 carries our wine. In New York City, it's T. Edwards. Actually,
I know. Great. Okay.
That carries our wine. I wish I knew exactly, and I was really good about telling you exactly where you could find them.
I can find them. I promise.
But I'm from Massachusetts. I'm from the Berkshires, from Lenox.
Oh, lovely.
So not very far.
Yeah.
And I know that it's really easy to find in the Berkshires.
Awesome. Well, I hope so. You're a good salesperson. Kerrie, this has been a delight chatting with you. I feel like we're friends, and I know now why you're friends with Kerrie, because you guys are both free thinkers and adventurous. So, it's such a pleasure to chat with you. Yeah,
thank you so much. It was much easier than I thought it would be. I was really nervous.
It makes people nervous. I had to get used to talking on camera. It's a very weird thing, but it's almost as good as having a drink with a friend. It's almost at this time. So, but it's like, it allows us to chat with people. You know, you can come to New York every day now if you want and sell your wine easier or something. But thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to tasting those wines. And I will post on Instagram stories where your wine is available.
Great, thanks.
All right.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Take care now. Bye bye.
Bye.